Hi Joshua, how are you doing? My name is George, and it's a very big pleasure to meet you here. So, first things first, thanks for your sharing your project. It's quite interesting, and of course, I'm very excited to put in my pin of thought on it. So, I have reviewed the document that you shared on Upwork, and I 100% want to be straight with you. This is something that I know I can do, and I actually think that I actually got to know or actually think where the problem is. So I'm going to give you the full picture, even if that you're not going to consider me as your developer for this particular project. You can have a starting point even with your next developer. So quickly, I know and I understand, yeah. Many developers may want to say, just go and hard wait or even try the request, blah blah blah. Or maybe, just be specific with, them just being try to play smart with the approach to your problem right now. And for sure, you have done the hardest part. You have solved the capture, you have solved the data extraction, and you have done the session management. But there are some things that I believe they're wrong, especially now you're connecting all these systems that are supposed to be talking to one another in a very uniformity. Because any error, any mismatch, any misconfiguration that's going to happen in between those systems of cloud resolving, data extraction, and session management, they're going to be very problematic, and especially now they're flagging or maybe causing the system to or the browser, the site to flag you as suspicious. So I believe that the main issue is actually now the system are talking to one another. And so how I want us to approach this, or how I want us to think of this problem, is in four parts. What do I mean with that? The four layers that this particular system is supposed to be, coordinating with one another in real time to avoid detection and, of course, to avoid flagging itself as a suspicious activity. So the very first layer or the very first problem is the reCAPTCHA v3 handling. Again, I'll explain it later when I get to it. The other thing is the live wire, that is the Ajax response in terms of how it's been responded to you and so on. The other thing is the Cloudflare challenge detection itself, and how, of course, it's how been solved. And of course, the fourth problem or the fourth layer, now the session validation. And what do I mean with all these problems or with all these layers that I'm just saying? Let's start with the first one, the reCAPTCHA v3 handling. Again, yes, you said that the form was being, the login was able to be clicked successfully, but something is happening in between. First, me and you know that GSalad uses reCAPTCHA that is invisible and that executes automatically via something we call an alpha in JavaScript. So this is what that I think it's actually happening with your reCAPTCHA approach or reCAPTCHA, code. Again, this is a speculation because I do not have an access to your code, but I believe this is part of the problem. I believe when you click in the login button and monitoring network requests, you're not actually capturing the reCAPTCHA token, which again most developers tend to get, and it's actually quite very important and very critical in any reCAPTCHA approach. So I believe that token is not being generated, and if it be generated, maybe it's not being captured carefully or being passed using the correct approach. So if this is a problem, or if I happens to find that this is actually an issue with your code, what I'm going to do is, of course, now to inject a JavaScript that captures the token before the form submissions, stores it in a memory, and of course now after it's been stored in memory, it injects it into the live wire request payload. That's the layer one. That's the problem. The very first problem that I think is wrong with your code. The second problem or the second layer is the live wire Ajax response. Yeah. Um, I tend to think that most developers tend to approach live wire with a lot of generic approach without actually having to get the real issues or the real payload that's been requested on the live wire. So what I'm thinking is your code might be handling live wire, but I believe it's not a normal form post. It's it's an edge risk because some some weird requirements that have not been validated. So my approach to this is first to get to monitor the actual requests that are being made by the live wire requests. Once I have this data, I'm going to verify if it's exactly the same thing that's being sent to the to the browser. So I'm going to exactly make sure that I've captured that data, and of course I've been able to get the exact payload that's been. Once I have the exact payload, then I will be able to pinpoint the exact problem that might be raised up by this particular layer. The other layer, it's the Cloudflare challenge itself. So yes, you said that you have the Cloudflare solved, but you have the timing of the Cloudflare solved. You might be having the Cloudflare solved, but when you leave the timing unsolved, it actually leads to problem. Let me explain why. So solving Cloudflare is actually very tricky. Sometimes it might be on an initial load. That is when you handle a Cloudflare. But again, some other times it's after the login. So it all depends with your approach. And by the way, some other times it could even be now, like you just said, you've been redirected to the login again. But do you know what causes all these issues when the Cloudflare challenges appear inconsistently? One, the timing. Why do I say so? Um, um, if you solve the Cloudflare after login, it's 100% likely going to fail. That's because um, if your approach is not intelligent enough, if your approach is not, if your approach is not, pre-examined before, even any Cloudflare, approach, without you the right timing, you're not going to solve it. So without you actually knowing, this is the time that the Cloudflare for this particular time, endpoint appears, then it becomes very hard for you to solve the Cloudflare. The system might even be giving you false alarms and false log errors that you might even be thinking it's all about the Cloudflare approach that you're using, or the Cloudflare solver that you're using. It might not be the same. I mean, it not might be the case, but now the timing. So if your timing is correct and well, then it becomes easier for you to to be sure 100% your Cloudflare approach is working, and yes, at the right time. So if that's been solved with an intelligent challenge detection, of course, conditional smart retry logic, very important data. So the layer 4, which again is the session persistent problem, or the session validation here, it's I know you might be having your cookie set, and you're wondering why your authentication is failing. This is very important. Session authentication is usually a server-side thing. So that means when a cookie domain or a path mismatch appears, then the session middleware validates everything. And so that means everything that has the middleware mismatched, then automatically its user agent or data mismatch, of course, automatically marks it as a suspicious agent or a suspicious activity on that particular point of operation. And so, how you handle session persistence through the entire components of the system that you're interacting with is very important. So that's another problem again that I'm speculating might be an issue with your system. So in a very quick summary of what I've just discussed, sorry if you're not technical, but let me just actually discuss. Provide you a very quick summary that you might need to, if it happens, you're not technical. So, like I've just said, your system might be suffering with either of the four problems, which again I labeled them as layers. Layer one, I said it's about recaptcha v3 and I said a token uh, might not be injected at the right time and the right approach. The second problem or the second layer is about the live wire requests that are being made by your system. There might be some mismatch that's happening between those data or that payload. Payload, think of it as a way of, just the request, the data that's been sent to, validate your session. So something might be wrong with that live wire. So again, that's the problem number two. That problem I talked about, you might be solving the Cloudflare, but now the problem might actually appear with how you you solve. You handle timing. The timing the approach might be good, but the timing might be bad. When it's bad, then that of course automatically makes your Cloudflare approach useless and of no value to the session that you're handling. And of course, the last problem is the session validation themselves, which again I think they might not be, um, they might not be, they might not be, they might not be the session validation. The session might not be handled with the right approach. There might be some cookies mismatch and also some domain mismatch, path mismatch, session mismatch, user agent and endless mismatch. So if any of this happens in between your session or whether in between your request, then your requests are automatically marked as suspicious, therefore leading to the 403 letters. Sorry, this presentation has been too long than expected. Let me quickly take you through my 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 experience quickly through another video that I believe you'll find it useful. Thank you and see you on the